with darkness and silence through the night. What a thrill. I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else. Crime, it's the way I fly to you. I'm still in a dream, snake eater. Someday you go through the rain, and someday you'll feed on a tree frog. It's ordeal, the trial to survive for the day we see new light. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, there'll be no one else. Crime, it's the way I fly to you. I'm still in a dream, snake eater. I'm still in a dream, snake eater.
There's no one game that I tell people is my favourite game ever made, but there are games that I consider probably the absolute pedigree of games that I obsess over constantly, have memorised beyond all rational point of necessity, will never shut up about to anyone, no matter how fucking irrelevant to the conversation it is. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is one of those games. I adore Snake Eater. Just, you will see throughout this series how words fail to describe my love of Snake Eater. It is weird, it is wonderful, it is a flawed gem of the most flawed, but you can get over the flaws. Yes, it's janky. Yes, the cutscenes are excessive. Yes, the Konami logo just interrupted the main menu. Don't mind that. All these things are true, but if you can get over the janky controls and the excessive Hideo Kojima cutscenes, it's incredibly charming, incredibly fun to mess around, the freedom you have to sneak around the jungle and kill people in whatever graphic or creative ways you like, the amount of love that went into every tiny little detail of this game's look and sound and design. Even for a Metal Gear game, it is something special. I am going to try and beat this game for probably about the 10th time in my life, live on camera. I'm going to try and demonstrate what it is about this freaking game I love so much. I am not skipping cutscenes. We will be watching all of the cutscenes. I will try and make witty banter during the cutscenes. I cannot guarantee that my banter will be witty though. I did bring bubbly wine. That's my wine glass. I brought some bubbly wine to help the banter. Often helpful, I find, alcohol is. But if you really don't care about the cutscenes, you can skip them. It's fairly self-explanatory, the sort of thing I'm describing right now. But I just want to make sure you're aware of what you're in for. This is long haul, I'm hoping, because I've played the game to death, I know what I'm doing, and it's very likely... Oh, it's not that I will be too challenged to be able to finish the game, it's just literally the amount of time it will take. I will also not be spoiling any Metal Gear stuff other than, like, at the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 2, this extremely basic thing happens that you find in the first 5 minutes of Metal Gear Solid 2. I will not be spoiling the events of the story in Snake Eater until they've happened already in the series, if that makes sense. Now, with all that technical, like, housekeeping out of the way, let's get started. I am going to do hard mode, because that's like a good... I've beaten this game on extreme before, but I thought it's difficult to be good at a game and also do amusing banter, so I thought hard was a good medium. Now, I want to get underway because there is a lot of cutscenes in this freaking game, so we might as well get started, and I try and be amusing during the cutscenes. I think the subtitles are on. We'll soon find out if they're not.
East and west.
You're going to see the cinematography in... one of the many reasons I decided not to skip the cutscenes is the cinematography is... You know, there are games coming out, big budget games these days, which do not have the visual flair of Snake Eater. Obviously, this is the HD version, but obviously, since it was originally a PS2 game, the graphics have aged and will continue to age, but the HD collection does do a good job of making it look better. It helps the gameplay too, because just simple things like the fact that you can identify what kind of snake you're looking at without having to pick it up, you know. On the PS2 version it's just like a brown tube on the floor, but in the HD version you can actually go, oh, that's a reticulated python. Fun fact, I believe that is Hideo Kojima's birthday that this game takes place on.
20 minutes to drop off.
Oh my god, the scope of what I'm attempting to do with this series is just beginning to dawn on me.
Drop zone still showing a high pressure mass. Cav okay.
Oh, the subtitles are on. Yes.
We've got high visibility.
I'm actually literally physically exhausted from that introduction. I'm quite tired.
Put out that cigar. Connecting oxygen hose to interior connector. Put on your mask.
Oh, he's a rebel. He doesn't do what he's told. He's grooving to some tunes. Maybe he's listening to the Snake Eater soundtrack, which is a very good soundtrack.
Know what he's doing?
It was a daring thing, you know, to go from Metal Gear Solid 2, which was quite high sci-fi, to go from that to the 60s as a prequel was actually quite daring at the time. And I genuinely think, without explaining why, I will say that this is probably one of my favourite, like, prequel stories into, like, you know... Because I think it's very hard to do a good prequel. You need something that's self-contained, but also adds to the existing, like, lore and storyline of the later stories. And Snake Eater does that.
6 minutes to drop off. Opening rear hatch.
Heh, I'll open your rear hatch. On the PS2 it was harder to tell that his helmet said Snake Eater on it, and now you can see it quite clearly. Oh, the soundtrack! The music when he jumps out of the fucking plane. Oh my god. If you're noticing a theme in this commentary, it's me just fan-wanking completely over this game.
Stand up.
Oh, the music's so good!
You'll be falling at 130 miles per hour. Try not to get frostbite from the wind chill.
1 minute to drop
I like he
off.
says try not to get frostbite, as if, you know, you could consciously not get frostbite.
One for the history books. The world's first Halo jump.
Oh shit, I put my controller on the table and it rumbled.
Stand by.
A nice thing about doing a console recording is, of course, I don't have to have my controller actually plugged in with a cable to the PC like I usually do. This is actually completely wireless today, which is nice. Get your wings and fly! God be with you!
God be with you.
I can't stop thinking he looks like an insect man. Oh god, the music, listen! Oh god, I was doing like the metal horns as the music was playing. It's so good. Oh, I just that smash cut to Hideo Kojima. Oh, it's so good.
Jack, I've got
And then a
some
much less
important
exciting
news.
cutscene.
The The head of the CIA has finally given us the green light for the virtuous mission.
President Trump had to be talked into it, but he eventually gave us the green light.
The future of our Fox
He then tweeted about this secret mission, so the Russians already know.
Virtuous mission.
Unnecessary question.
Some kind of initiation ritual.
You know, don't get cocky.
Drinking game, by the way. Actually, maybe I'll do that. Every time he asks an unnecessary question, I'll take a drink.
Well,
Yes! So, okay, one sip.
about 2 years ago, a certain Soviet scientist requested asylum in the West through one of our moles. His name is Nikolai Stepanovich Sokolov. He's head of the OKB 754 Design Bureau, one of the Soviets' top-secret weapon research facilities, and the East's foremost expert on weapons development.
Sokolov. Isn't he that famous rocket scientist?
Pictured here looking a bit like a Bond villain, appropriately.
On April the 12th, 1960.
In case you hadn't guessed, James Bond is one of Hideo Kojima's big influences, especially in Snake Eater.
The Earth was blue, but there was no God.
Well spoken. The rocket that carried Yuri Gagarin to orbit was the A-1, known as the Vostok rocket. Sokolov is said to be the man most responsible for the
Obviously, Metal Gear exists in its own weird alternate history, but I do actually find some parts of Metal Gear are slightly educational, you know. I didn't know, when I was like 12 when I first played the game, I didn't know a lot of this Soviet shit. Obviously it's not, it's a video game, it's not entirely reliable, but, you know.
It seems he'd become afraid of his own creations.
Afraid?
Afraid? Oh, that's an unnecessary question.
And for that, he left his country and his family behind and went over the fence?
Not exactly. One of his conditions was that his family was also to be taken safely to the west.
Papers, please.
He used a mole to get the family out first.
Glory to
and succeeded in sneaking
Astotska.
Sokolov over the Berlin Wall shortly afterwards. I was the one who conducted the operation.
The security on the eastern side was still full of holes back
It has to be said that David Hayter
We
as
got Sokolov
Snake
over in one
and
piece.
here
The
Big
whole
Boss
ordeal had left him exhausted.
is
We were
supremely
checked
good.
into a hospital in West Berlin. It took him 2 weeks and more than 600 miles to get from the research
Big Boss,
facility
or as
to
he's known at
the
this point in
Berlin.
history, just Snake, Naked Snake. He has a few names.
And it was only a week later that we had something much bigger on our hands.
the Cuban Missile Crisis.
October the 16th, 1962, President Kennedy received word that the Soviets were in the process of deploying intermediate-range ballistic missiles in Cuba. The President demanded that the Soviets dismantle and remove the missiles. At the same time, he announced a naval blockade to prevent further missile shipments from reaching Cuba. But the Soviets didn't back down, instead placing their
All
arms
this is
in
tragically
the
relevant, like 50 years later.
Ships carrying missiles continued on course towards Cuba. US and Soviet forces went on alert for an all-out nuclear war. Frantic negotiations were conducted.
Frantic, angry tweets were exchanged between President Trump and Soviet, whatever the equivalent is. I'm
Finally,
ignorant,
on
historically
October
ignorant.
28th, the Soviet Union agreed to remove its missiles from Cuba, and so the world avoided a nuclear holocaust. But in order to get the Soviets to pull their missiles out, we had to make a
Pull their missiles out.
US agreed to remove its IRBMs from Turkey.
No. The Jupiter IRBM
No, Snake, you dumb butt.
obsolete, and we were going to get rid of them anyway. They had no strategic value whatsoever to either the US or the Russians.
So many
The Turkey deal was
cutscenes.
a ruse, a cover
The
for
funny thing about Snake
other
Eater
intelligence
is,
agencies around
it
the
does have a
world.
lot of cutscenes, but
Really want.
it front loads a lot of them. The beginning of the game is much heavier on cutscenes than most of the rest of it.
Soviets pulled out of Cuba just to get their
So
hands on
you
Sokolov.
kind of forget this bad first impression where there's like 10-15 minutes of constant cutscene interruptions.
At the time, we had
And
no
then
idea.
the game does get a lot more generous because the game is
Running out of time.
quite slow paced compared to most of the other Metal Gears. There is actually quite a generous bit of gameplay between cutscenes later on, but this introduction, as beautiful and well crafted as it is, it does go on a long time.
Sokolov kept on screaming, "Save me," until he disappeared from my sight. Then a month ago, we received some new information from one of our moles.
About Sokolov?
Yes.
I'm going to count that as an unnecessary question because within context it was pretty clear he was talking about Sokolov.
KGB supervision. What's more, it's on the verge of completion.
So what kind of weapon is it? Something to do with space rockets?
No, missiles.
Same technology.
I guess you're right. We don't know the details, but it appears to be a new kind of nuclear device. For half a year now, the Soviets have been conducting frequent nuclear tests at Semipalatinsk.
Something to do with the weapon, I assume.
We're talking about a secret weapon so big that Khrushchev was ready to pull out of Cuba to get it back.
Is Sokolov still in the facility?
No, according to our intelligence, he's in Selino-Yarsk, a place in the mountains about 3 miles to the west that's known as the...
You know, you want to know something fun? The game is primarily set in a jungle in Russia. Now, there aren't really jungles in Russia. It's a big place, but it's just not a part of the world where you really get jungles. Now, apparently, and I'm no expert, but apparently there is a place named the location. There's a place in the real world with the same name as the location in this game, but it's not a jungle at all. So it's really bizarre. It's like Hideo Kojima took a real world place in Russia and just said, ah, fuck it, it's a jungle. Oh, the awesome music's back. Is it Harry Gregson Williams does this? Oh look, at times you can press a button to like look around in the cutscene. That's nice. So it's interesting. There's fun little secrets. There's parts of the game where it doesn't give. There are parts of the game where it doesn't give you that prompt to press a button, but if you press it, you will learn something secret.
We'll be facing a major crisis.
So basically, we're parachuting into Russia, into a non-existent Russian jungle to prevent a nuclear crisis by rescuing a defecting Soviet scientist. That's the plot that it takes about 10 minutes to tell us.
Once we confirm the rescue, Sokolov, stand by at the recovery point. A recovery balloon will be dropped at that point. Helium will be pumped into the balloon to inflate it. The process takes about 20 minutes.
I think the fact that these cutscenes are so long is part of what makes the games, like, you feel really part of the world because there's so much like military lingo and stuff, you know. It feels very, it doesn't feel like anything's being skipped for brevity. It feels like I like that the game is more low-tech because of the 60s setting, because that means there isn't as much techno-babble, but, you know, it's more down-to-earth, which is weird to say because there's a lot of crazy, nonsensical shit later in the game, but it's more grounded. Like MGS2, if you play it, is a very, very strange, crazy game, but it's grounded enough that the weird stuff kind of doesn't feel over the well. It is over the top, but it's hard to explain. It's camp. It takes itself seriously, but then has some really crazy shit in there too. But somehow it doesn't feel tonally inconsistent. There's enough of a balance of like serious and crazy shit that it works. I love how long it's taken. I'm looking at my I can keep a rough count of how long these cutscenes are by looking at my voice recording, and it's incredibly long it takes just to hit the ground after he jumps out of the plane. It takes longer than in Just Cause 2 to just hit the ground when you jump out of a plane. Oh shit, I've lost my bag. This is likely a reference to the famous bridge jumping scene in MGS2, which in itself was likely a reference to a James Bond film. And of course the mask resembles that worn by a villain in Metal Gear Solid 1. I feel like that was just about the worst way he could have possibly landed. Like, I guess it's only because he needed to stop himself falling off the cliff. But, if usually you'd land with a roll or something, I'd have thought. Really? Look at this fucking shampoo advert he's posing for here. Snake. Named after a character from Escape from New York. And now we have our first codec conversation, which takes up the bulk of the dialogue. Although a fun fact is you can flip these little panels here. So it's like I'm talking to the Major here, and it's like, hey, left,
I'll be referring to you
center,
as Snake from
right,
now on.
and
You're
here's some
not to mention
info.
your real name.
That's exciting.
Snake?
What, you don't like
Oh,
snakes?
unnecessary
What do
question.
you mean?
Two
You've won
unnecessary
before,
questions.
haven't you?
In survival training.
I'm glad to hear that.
I don't know if I'd ever order one in a restaurant, but
Be careful, you might not have a choice.
what about you,
The
Major?
restaurants only serve snake, I'm afraid.
Let's see. I'll be Tom. Call me Major Tom.
Oh,
This will be a sneaky.
oh, that's
mission.
nice. They change his
Must not be
nickname
seen
after he
by the
says that.
enemy.
That's cool.
You must leave no trace of your presence. Is that clear? This kind of infiltration is the Fox unit's speciality. In other words, weapons and equipment are procured on site. That goes for food as well. You're completely naked, just as your name implies.
Great. Now I see why you asked me if I like snakes. I suppose calling me Snake was your idea of a joke, too.
No, there's a good reason for that. I'll tell you later when the time is right.
Gotcha. Getting back to the subject, how exactly am I supposed to feed myself?
You've been issued a knife and a tranquilizer gun. Use them to hunt for food. You'll also
Hunting
find
the
some
most
medical
dangerous
supplies in
game
your
of all.
backpack.
Man.
Yeah, about the backpack.
Yeah, I
lost
kind
it
of
on
am
the
a
way
fuck up,
down.
and I lost my backpack immediately.
I see. Well,
Now,
you better go
inexplicably,
back
the
and get
Major
it.
now shows us a video
You know
on
where
our
it is?
radio. Don't question it.
No problem. I can see it from here. It's stuck on a branch.
On a branch. Fucking branch.
To climb a tree.
Here's a video.
stand in
Here's a
front of the tree
holographic
that's
projection
covered
of you
in ivy and
climbing a
press
tree,
the
Snake.
action button. I'll be
Press the
monitoring
action
progress of
button
the
in
road.
front of the tree.
You can't risk violating Soviet airspace, but I'll be in the gunship.
I do find it so charming
My
our characters
frequency
will
is
just say, press the action button,
140.85.
Snake.
I'll give you a call if I need to talk to you. If you need to talk to me, use the send function. Okay, Snake, go get your backpack.
Oh, okay, Snake, it's time to go to school. Go get your backpack. No, I don't want to go to school today. Right, okay, we've actually got some fucking gameplay. Only 15 minutes in, I think. This is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. You are look at this area. It's a bit blurry. It's a bit PS2 textury, but you can just run around this little place. That number, the game will explain these things, but that number in the corner of the screen is the camo index. Until we get our backpack, we can only have this shitty camouflage, the default stuff. But the camouflage index literally indicates how well hidden we are at a given moment. Like, standing up is the worst camo, crouching is better, and then lying down... Oh, hang on. Lying down is the best. But obviously, you know, what scenery you're standing against affects your camouflage. So, for instance, I get pretty good camouflage if I'm lying down in some thick grass, but if I'm running around in the open, I'm basically lit up like a Christmas tree, to quote Splinter Cell. And that's like that's probably the main difference that this game added after the other Metal Gears, is this whole camouflage system. It's absolutely the crux of the game. We have to go get our backpack, wherever it is. This way, I think. I remember this game so well. Here we are. I think there's actually a bird in the grass there. Yeah, you can see him, like, moving the grass. And then you can scare him. I have a knife. Like the Colonel said... No, the Major, not the Colonel. Colonel! No, he's a Major, not a Colonel. Who is an item? Some life medicine. That's helpful. Like the he called him Colonel again. Like the Major said, you can cut things, you can attack animals in order to eat them, store them in your backpack and eat them. That's how you regenerate stamina. Under your life is the stamina meter, which you need to heal wounds and stuff like that. What am I trying to do? Oh no, I'm being an idiot. I have to just climb the tree, don't I? Now see here, like if you're in a tree, you know, enemies might not look up to see you, but your camouflage is actually very poor while you're in the tree, so it's a balancing act, you could say, because I'm balancing on the tree. Anyway, let's get my backpack. And now for some more cutscenes. But after this, there is a quite... There's a few more minutes of cutscenes, and then you get to the first area with enemies, and you're given much more freedom to just wander around and figure things out.
It's necessary to take it out of your backpack. In the survival
I
viewer,
like when the Major
choose a
talks
weapon
like
from the
Snake's just a
backpack.
complete moron.
Your
It's like,
available weapons
to
will
equip
be
a
displayed in
weapon,
the window
open your
in the upper
bag
left.
and take out the
From
weapon.
that list, choose the weapon you want to equip and press the Enter button. For other equipped items, just do the same thing from Item.
Got it. Use the survival viewer backpack.
Yep, that's right. Survival is fundamental to this mission. After you've been out in the field for a while, your stamina will start to drop. If your stamina gets too low,
This is literally
it
the
affects
stuff
your
I just
performance.
explained. I should probably
You won't be
stop
able to
explaining
shoot
stuff that
accurately,
the
for
game is
example,
then going to
your
explain.
wounds won't heal as smoothly. Keep an eye on your stamina so you don't run out. To recover
That's
lost
another thing
stamina,
is
you can
this
hunt for
Snake
local
Eater did
flora
this
and
whole
fauna.
like stamina survival
You can use
thing
either your
about
tranquilizer gun or
5
your
years
knife
before
to
it kind of
My
became,
only weapon is
you know, when you think of like Minecraft and all the survival games that it inspired. This was
That's right.
2004 that this came out. This game is 13 years
However,
old.
the suppressor will deteriorate every time you fire.
And obviously it's like
Once its
cruder,
durability
you know,
is
there's
zero,
only
the
one
noise
survival
suppression
feature,
effect
there's
will
no
be
like,
gone.
you know,
Next
sleep
trigger
or
happy with.
temperature or anything like that, but
Suppressor's durability is
the
shown
stamina
in the
meter
item.
is a constant thing
Any
you have to
weapons
worry
and
about. It
equipment
is a
beyond what you're
survival
carrying
game, you know.
out, you'll have to find as you go.
And wounds heal slowly as well.
Whose crazy idea was this anyway?
You don't,
Solo
you have
covert
regenerating
actions
health,
are
but it's
standard
very
props
slow,
operating
and
machine.
your wounds won't
Can't
heal
leave
properly
any
if you
traces
don't
of
have
your
enough
weapons.
stamina either.
Weapons,
So it is a
equipment,
game which
footprints,
encourages,
sweat,
you know,
or bodily waste.
you're supposed to lie in a bush
Same
for a
goes
few
for
minutes,
bullets and
wait for your
cartridges, too.
moment, jump on
Your
someone,
presence in enemy
and if you get
territory
shot you
is
have to
already
run
a
away
violation of
quickly
international
and then
conventions of
hide, and
warfare.
your wound will
There
take
aren't supposed
several
be
minutes
any
to
American
heal.
soldiers in Russia.
It heals fast if you're
Keep
lying
things about
down, that sort of
international
thing.
incident. You can't let anyone see you. You can't let the enemy
I
know
do
you're
like
there.
here that the Major
Stop.
says, you know, we can't discuss our mission over the radio, you never know who might be listening, and then immediately says there aren't supposed to be American soldiers in Russia, so we shouldn't discuss that. I just love that within the same paragraph he just completely contradicts himself.
You've been given a fake death pill for that purpose. SIS guidelines stipulate that soldiers on covert ops like this one be issued a potassium cyanide capsule. Tape it to your body so you can take it when you need to.
How generous of you.
Use it if you're taken prisoner by the enemy. It'll send you into a state of false death for a short time.
Fooling them into thinking that I'm really dead. So how do I come back to life?
Just take the revival.
This is a genuine thing that the game lets you do. You can avoid,
That's the one.
if you
Be careful.
form an
Remain in a
if you
state of false death
can't
for
talk,
too long.
if you set off an
Nothing
alert,
will
you can
bring you
use the
back.
fake death pill,
Remember that.
and then
I'll keep it in
enemies will come over and go,
You said
oh
this was
shit, he's
solo
dead,
mission,
and then walk away, and the alarm goes
I
away,
guess that means I
and then you can
count
just
on
revive
that
yourself. But
Correct.
the pill is
Mission
quite
rests
rare to find, the
entirely
fake
in
death
your
pill,
hands.
so you can't just
real
constantly use it.
one-man army.
Even in boss fights, you can use the
Relax,
pill
there's a
and get
support
like a
team ready to
one-off
back you up over the
hit
river.
on them, but then after that one time, they realise
I'll
you're
introduce
faking
them
if you
to
do
you.
it again, so you
This
can't just do
time,
it endlessly.
Survival is of utmost importance. The first member of the support
must
team
build
will
a
be in charge of
shelter
monitoring your
to
physical
avoid the
condition,
creepers
acting
and
as
the
a
skeletons
medic, as
and
well
the
as
giant
recording your mission
spiders.
data.
Build a
There's
rock
member of
fortress
Fox
and
as
then
well,
mine
and
to collect
she's here
diamonds.
on the gunship with me.
She.
Hello, Snake. I'm paramedic.
Yes, you
Nice
have
to
a
meet
whole
you.
crew of memorable characters who at any
As a
time in the
medic
game you can
comes
phone
into
up to get random
Aren't you going to
advice
tell me your
about.
real name?
Are you
This
going to tell me
paramedic
your
character is
wishes,
probably
Snake?
my favourite because she's very strange.
John
She
Doe.
will have very
And they
weird
call you Jack
conversations
for
with you
short.
about all the various
You're a
foods
regular
you find in the
Captain
game.
A name
She will
means nothing on the
also
battlefield.
discuss
weak,
movies
no
that
one
she's
is
seen every time you try to save the game. It's
Jane Doe.
there are
Very
probably
funny.
dozens of
I wasn't
hours of
joking,
entirely
but I'll
optional
tell you, I
dialogue on top of all the
only managed to make
mandatory
it back
cutscenes that
alive.
the game makes you watch. There
My
is
frequency
probably
is
a dozen hours
145.73.
of entirely optional
He's
conversations
also
in the
charge of
codec,
recording your mission data.
including some
Whatever
very
you want to
obscure ones which
say,
only happen
send
under
a
very
message over
specific
reserved
parts of the
safe frequency,
game.
140.96.
The
So saving
You know,
lets me
the
record
games,
on
I think games
That's
from the
right.
time that
It
this game
also
came out, the
increases the state
PS2
of
sort
your
of
health.
time was like the golden age where
There's one more
technology had
person
got
I
to the
want
point where you could do
introduce
quite a
to
lot of
Snake.
things, but budgets had not got to the point
Speaking
yet
of
where
snakes, you remember the
companies
boss, don't
weren't
you?
willing to let
A legendary
their
soldier
developers
in
take any
Elemental.
chances.
Actually, it was
And
the boss
like
that got
Konami is in
DCI's
particular is a
authorization in the
notoriously
first
awful
place.
publisher, which have done a
She's
lot
going to
of
be
bullshit
serving
over
as
the years,
Fox's
but
mission advisor.
they gave Hideo Kojima
Awesome.
the freedom
She also helped me
that he
plan this
needed to do
mission.
something very
She and I
weird
were at SAS
with Metal Gear.
Jack, is that you?
Oh
How
shit,
many
someone
years has it
else!
been?
Now, I won't explain why,
That's
but
right.
the boss
It's
is
me.
probably one of my favourite characters in all video games. Like,
Talk to me.
video games
Let me
tend
hear
to
your
have
voice.
quite poor writing and
It's
quite
been 5
poor
years
you know, character development stuff, but the boss and her relationship with
You've
Snake,
lost weight.
I will not explain why, I will not explain the specifics, because it's a complete spoiler,
course I
but
can.
I adore
I
the
know all
boss,
about
and I adore her character,
Really?
and you will see
Well, I don't know
why.
anything about you.
What's that supposed to mean?
Why'd you disappear on me all of a sudden?
I was on a top secret mission. You didn't need me anymore.
I do find her
But there
acting
were
a bit
still so many things I
strange,
wanted
it's
to
a bit
teach me.
wooden. It feels very deliberate though
I
in Metal
taught you
Gear.
everything you needed
I've
to
heard the
know
same
about fighting
actress in
techniques.
different
I taught you all I could.
video games that she does not
The
talk
rest
like
you needed
this,
to
which
learn on
suggests
your
it's a
own.
deliberate thing she was putting on.
Sure, but what about how to think like a soldier?
How to think like a soldier? I can't teach you that. A soldier needs to be strong in spirit, body,
This
and
talk
technique.
that the boss
And the
gives you
only
here
thing
is a
can learn
bit,
from someone else is technique.
it
In
is a bit
fact,
preachy to be
technique
like
doesn't even
right at the
matter.
beginning of the game, I
What's
will
most
say.
important is spirit. Spirit and body are like two sides of a single coin. They're the same thing. I can't.
You've just
teach
got to
you how
believe in
think.
yourself hard
You
enough,
just
Snake,
have to figure
and
it out
bullets
for
won't stop
yourself.
you.
Listen to me, Jack. Just because soldiers
Oh yeah,
are
his
on
real
the
name's
same
Jack,
side
by the way, which is confusing.
doesn't mean they always
Characters in
will
Metal
be.
Gear tend to have
Having
about
personal
7 different
feelings about your
names.
comrades
For
is
instance,
one
the
of the worst
boss, off the top of my
sins you
head,
can
the boss is
commit.
called
Politics
the
determine
boss,
who you
the
face on
joy, the
battlefield.
mother of all soldiers, the
politics
Mercury
are
lady.
like
She
living
literally
things.
has about
They
7
change
names.
along with the times.
I'm not even sure what her real
Yesterday's
name
good
is. I don't
might
think
be
it's ever
tomorrow's
revealed.
evil.
Is that why you abandoned me?
No,
And
it
Snake
had
goes by
nothing to
several
do with
names.
you.
He's going to
I
Snake,
already told
Naked
you,
Snake,
I was
Jack,
on a top
Big
secret
Boss.
mission. A
It's
soldier
like,
has to
why does
follow
he have so
the
many
orders he's
names?
given. It's not his place to
It reminds me
question
of Game of
why,
Thrones,
but
and by
you're
which I
looking
mean, of
for a
course, the
reason
original
to
books as
fight.
well. I always
You
like
are
in
a
Game of Thrones
natural-born fighter.
how many
But you're not
characters have
called a soldier.
nicknames.
A soldier is a political tool, nothing more.
Like,
That's doubly true if he's a career
you know, when you
soldier.
hear a character called
Right and wrong
the
have no
Mountain
place
or
in his
the
mission. He
Kingslayer,
has no enemies,
you know, those
no
are
friends.
quite
Only
provocative
enemies.
nicknames. They give you an idea
You
of what
follow the
people...
orders
You know, the
given.
important thing is that
That's
other
what being
people
a
refer
soldier
to them
is.
by that
I
name.
do
That's a
whatever
name
I
that they
have
have
to
given
get
that
the job
character.
done.
That tells you
I don't
quite a
think about
lot
politics.
about the role
That's
that
not
character
the
has
same
in the
thing.
world, you know?
Sooner or
I've always
later,
tried to
your
remember that in my own
conscience is going
writing.
to bother you. In the end,
I warned you,
you
this
have to
game,
choose
this
whether you're going
series
to
would just be
live
me
as a
fan wanking
soldier
over this
or
game,
just
because
another man with a gun.
the Watchman
There's a
of video
saying,
games.
Loyalty to the end.
The Mona
Even
Lisa
your
of
enemies.
video games. The,
It means devoting yourself to your
oh my god, what's it
I
called?
follow
Citizen
orders
Kane
from
of
the
video
top brass.
games.
I'm ready to die for them if necessary.
I'm not listening to what they're
The
talking about at
president
all.
and the top brass won't be there forever. Once their terms are up, others will take their place.
I follow the will of the leader, no matter who's in
The
charge.
leader is good, the leader is
aren't the
great, we
ones who
surrender our
dictate
will as of this date.
Then who does?
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na, Batman.
People's values
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na,
change
Big
over time,
Boss.
and
Big
so do the
Boss.
leaders of a country.
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
So there's no
I like
such thing as
codename
an
the
enemy
boss,
in
sex
absolute
female,
terms.
age unknown,
The
birth
enemies
date
we fight
unknown,
are
birthplace
only
unknown,
enemies
address
in
unknown.
relative terms, constantly changing with the times. As long
A
as we
man
have
of
loyalty to the
mystery.
end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we
These
love.
cutscenes are so
That's the
long.
way soldiers
I
should
swear on
be.
my life the cutscenes are
only
not
thing you can
as
believe in
invasive
with
after this
absolute
intro. I
certainty
swear.
is the mission.
They really do front load
Alright,
them.
But do me a favor.
What is it?
Call me Snake.
Snake. Oh, right. Your code name is Snake.
Oh yes, the
It's
top
a
secret
female.
mission which requires me to give
That's
you a
right.
code name.
The
For some
legendary
reason
unit
I've
that the
been
boss
referring to you as your
referred
real
to
name
was
for
a
10 minutes,
snake.
but oh I just
The
remembered
Cobra
you're supposed to have a
unit,
code
group
name.
of heroes that brought the war to an end and saved the world. As long as you've got a legendary hero backing you up, you'll be fine. Isn't that right, Snake?
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else I'd rather have with me. Oh, and one more thing, boss.
I love you. Sorry, what?
It's good to hear your voice again.
Same here. After all, who knows if either of us will make it out alive? Snake, you are always best at urban warfare
So,
and infiltrating
you're always best
buildings.
urban warfare and
But this is the
infiltrating
jungle.
buildings, but that's why
Survival
we
is
sent
going
you
to
to a
be key.
jungle.
Those CQC
Why did they pick
techniques
him?
I taught you are sure to come in handy.
So, just to summarize the plot, because I keep
CQC.
talking over it,
Close quarters combat.
Snake is
I've been in
in
the
the
Green
jungle
Berets for the
to
past few
stop a
years.
Russian,
I'm
no,
probably
to
pretty
prevent,
rusty.
no, to help a Russian
Not to
Soviet
worry.
scientist
I'll
defect,
be here to help you remember.
to prevent a
After
nuclear
all,
war.
This is your first actual survival mission.
The boss
I'll be
here
supporting you
is
over the
his mentor,
Where are you, boss?
not to be confused with Big Boss, which is a nickname that
The boss is
Snake later
communicating with
gets.
us by radio
Just for
from
simplicity, I'll call him
aboard the
Snake,
Plaz
and she's the
submarine
boss,
in the
okay?
Arctic Ocean.
And this is not the same character from Metal Gear 1 and 2 and 4, by the way. This is Big Boss,
Gotcha.
Oh god, I've already
Your
called him.
mission is to
He's
retrieve
Snake,
Dr.
Naked
Sokolov.
Snake, later known as Big Boss. It's so
Dr.
confusing.
Sokolov is being held in an abandoned factory located to the
But
north of your
Snake
current
and
position.
Snake and
Avoid
the
heavy
boss
combat and don't
have a
let anyone
history,
see you.
and
Don't
that's
forget
that's
that this
quite
is a
evident from how they
stealth
talk to
mission.
each other. And there's a whole will they, won't they thing. I don't know. Will they, won't they? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who knows? Oh my goodness. Finally, we're almost having some more gameplay. CQC stands for Close Quarter Combat.
Commencing virtuous mission now.
Oh my goodness, we actually get to play the game. Yes, finally, dear God. Look. Okay. So, we've got all of our shit now. Like, there's this system in the game where, like, you know, you can have a firearm, but with the other button you can do melee attacks as well. We've got all of our shit now, though, including the camouflage. Now, you may notice this item at the bottom of the mask list. It's a Raiden mask from MGS2. The reason this is in your inventory is that depending on which of the options you pick at the very beginning of the game, there's an option that says, I like MGS2. If you pick that, or it's one of them anyway, if you pick one of those options, there's a joke at the beginning of the game where the intro changes, where Snake is revealed to have this mask on. And this is Hideo Kojima having a bit of fun with the audience after all the horrible backlash that players had to the character of Raiden being the main protagonist of MGS2. There's a joke where it's revealed that he's wearing, that this is his face, and then the Major says, take that damn mask off, and he takes the mask off and it turns out he's Snake under there after all. But that's quite amusing. The woodland camo is the one that makes most sense most of the time. There is no real, like, there's no strategy. Like, the game will just tell you which camo to use, so there's no reason not to use whichever camo it recommends at any given moment. The main issue is you do have to constantly pause the game in order to change your camo, but, you know, you get used to it. And also, this PS3 version of the game loads significantly faster than the old PS2 version did, so it's not as annoying. I like how you get a little description of each thing if you look in the menu. Backpack. All of these things are essential. Yes, so I'm going to have that. Yep, that's all good. Why not? Might as well have those things. Anti-personnel sensor. Now, I can't remember. It consumes battery power when used, but this thing basically rumbles and makes sound whenever someone's nearby. But it doesn't make sound in the sense that someone else can hear it. The cigar has some uses, but literally it makes your health go down. If you equip the cigar, it literally makes your health go down. Right, may as well equip that. Okay, right, we're good to go. We're actually playing the game now, I swear. Now, because we've got good camo on for the jungle, we get 90%. Oh my god, hello. There's a snake here, hello. Because we've got good camouflage, we get 90% camo when we're lying down in grass, which is very good. They have to get very close in order to see you at 90%. It's possible to get 100% camouflage at certain points in the game, which means you are literally invisible. People can still bump into you, of course, but as long as they don't actually physically contact you, you are literally invisible. But most of the time, 90% is the best you can hope for. Now, this is a snake. This is a random piece of wildlife we've just found in the world, and you can kill it, and it turns into an item which you can pick up, and now it's in my food. And you can eat it or get rid of it. It gives you a little description. I haven't eaten it yet, so I don't know what it tastes like. Each kind of food has a different effect on you. Each kind of food will restore your health, your stamina a certain amount. Some foods turn out to be poisonous. Some foods turn out to have other unexpected effects. And if you talk to, I won't do it now just because we've had tons of cutscenes. If you talk to paramedic on the codec, which I'm not going to do now because we have just watched a whole shitload of cutscenes, she will describe the various food items, and she has a funny conversation with Snake, and the running joke is that he always asks what it tastes like. Like, she'll say, "Oh, this is a fascinating species. It can live to be 1 billion years old and 10 meters long." And he says, "That's great. How does it taste?" And then she says how it tastes, but she doesn't always get it right. Sometimes she gets it wrong. Let's just move on to the next area. I always have fun trying to pronounce the place names. Drumuzhizh Swampland. And I like that you get the Russian translation as well. Well, I would say the Russian translation, that's the original name, of course. This is Russia, the impossible Russian jungle we're in. You cannot eat butterflies, tragically. You can in Skyrim, but not here. It does always seem a bit crazy in Skyrim that you can just pluck a butterfly out the air and just eat it right there, you know, and it has no ill effects on you. It's probably full of protein or something. Now, you'll notice, hang on, we got crocodiles. Now, crocodiles, when they're on land, they leave you alone, but if you run into them in the water, they are quite deadly. Here's a fun fact not a lot of people realise about the crocodiles. If you throw a grenade into a crocodile's open mouth, it will explode and kill the crocodile, and that actually works. It goes into the crocodile. There's a surprised expression on his face, and then he explodes. That's a real thing that actually happens. You want to get on land. The crocodiles are not as dangerous, but they can still knock you over with their tail or nibble you. So it's good to give them a wide berth. But you can kill them and eat them if you want. I meant to say in the food menu, there's 3 cages here. You can capture live animals for various purposes. You can throw them at guards. You can distract them. You can poison them if it's a poisonous animal. You can knock them out or even kill them, depending on what kind of animal it is. Picked up some bug juice, that's exciting. Now, right there, I didn't even see that one. He nearly knocked me over with his tail, Jesus. Gloop. Oh yeah, there's a hornet's nest here. The hornet's nest is good food, but you immediately want to run away. Shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh god, this is not going well at all. Ah! Yeah, if hornets chase you, you have to go into the water to get rid of them. But you can actually drown in this mud. If you stand in the mud, you start to drown, and if your head goes under, you actually do drown and die. But the hornet's nest is very nutritious, so I've deliberately risked getting stung by hornets in order to pick up the hornet's nest. You also get some ointment from it, which will come in later. Later on, you get a menu to cure wounds from, and it's a whole little system of being able to cure your wounds. There's a snake here. It's another reticulated python, I believe. Just for the purposes of example, I'm going to capture this one alive. And he appears in a little cage, see? With a little ZZZ effect. And you pick him up. And he's now in a cage. Now, food will eventually... Most foods go off. Meat goes off faster than vegetation. But most foods will eventually go rotten, and therefore you can't eat them without poisoning yourself. But you can still use them as distractions or potentially to poison guards. But if you capture an animal alive, it stays fresh forever, because obviously it's alive and you're presumably feeding it. And you can equip it as an item, which you can also do with like regular food. But as an item, if it's a living animal, you can actually throw it at guards, and if it's a snake or a spider or something, they can bite the guard, which is insane. Yeah, I like the effect that there's mud halfway up my legs now. If you can let the mud go all the way up to your neck, and if you get out in time, you'll still survive. I will survive. Now, there's going to be a brief cutscene here where they talk about meeting some guards, but then this is when the game starts properly, I swear. After this there's a little cutscene, and he has a conversation with the major, and then the game starts properly, okay? We actually get to hunt down some guards. Look, 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 look. See? There's a guard. There's 2 guards, in fact.
I've spotted 2 enemy soldiers.
They're probably KGB troops sent to guard Sokolov.
AK-47s and grenades.
Snake, Your presence in Soviet territory is already a violation of international law.
Which I shouldn't say out loud after
Kremlin
announcing that
financed the
anyone could be
CIA and
listening
the
in on this
American government
conversation.
involved. Contact with the enemy is strictly prohibited. Don't engage them in battle either. This is a stealth mission.
Now he tells you
Got
that's
that?
a stealth mission.
The
You can of
Major
course
is
still
right.
set off an
The point
alert.
of this mission is to sneak
It's not like
through
they
the
see you and
jungle
it's an
without
instant
being
game over,
seen.
unless
The success
you're
of the
playing on the
mission
European
depends on how
Extreme
well
mode,
you
which
use
sounds
your
like a porno, but
camouflage.
is actually the hardest difficulty in the game.
Change your
I've yet to beat
camouflage by
European
selecting
Extreme. I've beaten
camouflage in
beaten
survival
Extreme, but not
gear.
European Extreme. She's
The
just explaining the
uniform
camouflage
option
system.
lets you pick
I've done it
your
again.
gear,
I've explained
while the
systems in
face
the game
option
that
lets
you
you
will now
change
have to
your
watch
face
in the
paint.
cutscene.
Choosing
But I can talk about other
camouflage that
things.
blends in with your surroundings will help you conceal yourself more effectively.
Yeah. In European Extreme mode, if you set off an
Also,
alert, you
don't
instantly have to go
forget
back
that
to the
anything
nearest
that
checkpoint.
moves will stand out
That
in
would be
the
very annoying to
If
have to
you just
do for
stand
this
up
Let's
and run
Play,
around
and
like
I've
an
never
idiot,
actually
you're
beaten that
bound to
mode
be
because I got
spotted.
stuck on a
But if
boss.
you crawl
But
instead, you should be able to sneak
I have
by
beaten it
without
on
being
Extreme
noticed.
mode, but this is hard mode, which is not as extreme, but still quite
You can
hard.
see how effective your camouflage is
Yeah,
by
the
looking at the
difficulty
camo
affects
index.
how hard you
The
are
camo
to be
index
seen by
shows how well
guards
your
and
current
how much
camouflage
health you
blends in with the
have
surrounding
and the
area.
availability of items.
The higher the value, the harder you are to spot, and vice
Yeah,
versa.
this is already shit I've explained.
The key is to make yourself one with nature.
Frolic.
Keep that in mind as you
Hug
go
the
along,
trees.
okay?
Frolic with nature. Shit, I keep putting my controller down whenever they're talking and then have to frantically pick it back up. Okay, dear God, you're only 40 minutes in or something, but I swear, this is when the actual game starts, I swear. Because this is when they stop constantly interrupting the game and you can actually just play the fucking game. That was a nice touch with it. Did you see that? The guard was walking through the grass and there was a bird there and the bird got disturbed and flew away. Now, the neat thing, if you've played any previous Metal Gear game before this one, they used to have the Soliton radar in the top right corner, which constantly showed where you and all the enemies were. The most daring thing this game did, along with the camouflage system, is you no longer have that radar. You actually have to use your binoculars and your microphone. Genuinely, Snake Eater has some of the best sound design I've ever seen, or heard, rather, in a video game, because you actually have to listen out for guards. Like, you know, the microphone is incredibly helpful. Even subtitles will get louder. Subtitles will visually get bigger or smaller depending how close the sound is to you, which is quite a neat touch for the hearing impaired. Oh shit, didn't mean to do that. He luckily did not see that. So currently, I'm waiting for him to walk around. This is a tranquilizer gun, if I didn't explain that earlier. Well, I captured that snake alive, so that suggests it's a tranquilizer gun, but I showed off how to capture that snake, but I will actually not be using tranquilizers or guns for most of the game, because I find the game too easy if you do that. There's also thermal goggles we'll find in a moment, which I will also not be using, except to demonstrate them. I will not really use them because I find the game... Because I've played this game so much, I find them just much too useful. Here's a fun fact, by the way, I'm sneaking up on this guy. Not a lot of people realise, if you use the D-pad, you will move as fast as you can without making noise. This is the fastest silent sound. You can manually use the analog stick to move at the quiet pace as well, but it's more effort. If you just use the D-pad and line it up properly with the camera, it's actually much easier to consistently sneak up on people. So that's a fun fact. The game never explains this, I don't think. There we go, I've held up a guard. Now, as long as I'm pointing my gun at him, he will not fight back.
No, wait.
If you point the gun at his face or groin, he will beg you not to shoot him and give you items, which is exciting. You can do things like shoot his radio. If you shoot a guard's radio, they cannot call for help, even if they escape. Certain guards will also have, unlike the previous games, if you take out all of the radio guards in an area, they can no longer call for backup, even if an alert goes off. So that's quite a nice trick. I've captured this guard, and I can interrogate him for information. And sometimes they just say useless shit like that.
Answer me.
But sometimes...
Let go of
Hang on, I
me.
don't think he's going to say anything useful. No, this guy doesn't say anything useful, but sometimes they do things like they say, you know, here's they'll give you a codec frequency that you can use to call in an airstrike or get rid of an alert or something like that. And the best guards are the ones which tell you the locations of other guards, and you can then look at it on your map. So that's a good risk reward in the game where it's often easier to sneak past an individual guard than to try and grab him and interrogate him. But if you go to the effort of interrogating him and then hiding his body, you can find out useful information. Now I can either leave this guard alone or I can mercilessly slit his throat, like this. I'm not doing a non-lethal run. One of the nice hardcore Metal Gear games let you do crazy hardcore challenges if you want to, and because I'm a hardcore veteran I do often do them. But for the purposes of this playthrough I'm just doing, I'm not bothering to go non-lethal, so I don't mind killing people. But you can, it's entirely valid to play the game non-lethally, and it's quite a fun challenge because it limits your options significantly. It's also like a moral point, I suppose, like if you don't have to kill someone, you know, quite nice. There was a guy over there. Okay, he's over there. If I hide in this tree trunk, he will eventually come around. There's two different camera modes, by the way. There's this one, which is usually helpful, but for this exact moment, this camera is quite helpful. A fun fact about MGS3 is, on the PS2, the game originally shipped with just this one camera mode, the one I'm using now. And it's functional, but for a game which is so reliant on visual and audio clues, it was so much harder to look around corners. You basically had to use the first person mode in order to look around corners. There's something in that bush over there. I wonder what it is. It's probably a snake. And I'm the snake eater, which, you know, always sounds like a blowjob reference. I'm literally waiting for this guy to come around. I've got 70 camo, and so long as he doesn't look this way, we should be okay. At this range, he would see us, I think, if he turned around, but I don't think he will, so we're alright.
Freeze.
Yeah, holding up guards or shaking their bodies will give you items, if you're wondering why I was shaking that guy's body a minute ago.
If you climb trees...
Now, this is a fun fact, like, it is worth interrogating guards, because they will each say different things. Like, you might not realise that you can climb trees. Now, inside fallen trees, that is a reference to the fact in this area, you can find fallen tree logs, and if you climb inside them, there are special items.
Speak. Bastard.
And eventually they'll start looping, so you can just kill them. But, genuinely, it is worth holding up guards, because half the time they say something worth hearing. Oh shit, oh shit. That guy might have been able to see us from this distance, especially with me holding a guard, so... I'm just shaking this guy's body in order to get all the items. This is the first time I've played Snake Eater since playing Metal Gear Solid 5, so... the clunkiness of the controls is more obvious than it used to be, but I've played this game so many times, I'm just so used to it. Metal Gear's controls, especially these older games, they are very uniquely janky and they do take some getting used to, but you know, once you get used to them, especially with the extra camera mode that this version of the game adds, it really isn't as bad as it used to be. I don't have to kill these guards, but after all that cutscene, I really feel like I want to take the time and effort to, you know, show off some stealth gameplay. Now, guards will see you easier if you move, but if you're very close to them, you don't want to turn around. You can use this first-person mode to spin round without them seeing you, but if you spin in the third-person camera, they will see you moving if you're close enough. He's moving that way. He might see us unless we're very slow. It is worth, if you move in these little sort of dip, 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 dip movements, you're harder to see than if you just move in one solid movement, like this. And your speed of movement, like if you're running around, you're much easier to see than if you're crawling very slowly. Yep. It's worth dragging him into the grass because look, my camo doubled when we went into the grass, so it's worth doing.
The crocodiles are ferocious.
Some of the hints they give you are very like straightforward, and some of them are quite cryptic and badly translated, arguably. But there's a scene later in the game where someone explains the origin of the term Metal Gear, and in English it makes absolutely no sense at all. Absolutely no sense. Because the term Metal Gear in itself, which refers to the giant robots in the games, the term Metal Gear already sounds like a bad Japanese to English translation, so when someone tries to very literally explain the origin of the word Metal Gear in the game, it makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. Oop. I was feeling very brave just now. Oh, oh god, okay.
Freeze.
Whew. Okay. I was lucky there, okay. People often forget that you can hold guards up while they're on the ground in Snake Eater. You couldn't do that in MGS2. The only thing about when they're on the ground is you can't actually, they don't know that you're aiming at their face or groin, so you can't, like, make them give you items. I think that's everyone, because if there was any more guys, the caution would have lasted longer, I think. Yeah, I think there's everybody. There's something, I think there's a frog in this grass. Oh, this guy's knocked out, by the way, those 2 stars. If I give him a kick, he'll lose one of those stars, and if I kick him one more time, he'll actually wake up. Again, not everyone realizes you can't...
Who's that?
Oh shit, hang on. Oh god, I'm doing this very badly, I apologise, I'm a bit rusty. He's probably gonna try and call for help. Oh shit. Ah, because I took out the radio man, he can't actually use the radio. Oh, Jesus Christ, okay. That was incredibly annoying, so I apologise for that. I am rusty with this game because I haven't played it in about a year after playing Phantom Pain. Yeah, when I inevitably set off a proper alert, you will hear... When you're just sneaking around in the regular mode, like we are now, when you haven't been detected, there's no music most of the time. But when you set off an alert, the music is incredible. It's like tense jungle music, and it's so good. There's a story that the composer had refused to work on another Metal Gear game unless it was set in the jungle. And then, coincidentally, Hideo Kojima had been hoping to set the next game in the jungle. So that worked out really well. You know.
Hornets.
I mean, Harry Gregson Williams has already done... He'd already done some great music in Metal Gear, just iconic music before this.
Crocodiles taste great.
But, what he just said there, by the way, that hornets are terrifying, that is a reference. If you knock down a hornet nest, guards will actually run away from the hornets.
Speak. Throw a grenade.
Oh, there you go, that's the hint. If throw a grenade into a crocodile's mouth, and you can blow them up.
You lousy.
And I'm just going to kill him. I have done non-lethal runs of this game. It's entirely possible to beat the game without killing a single person. But in this instance, I just wanted to kill his butt. Kill his butt. Yeah, so I think we've actually raided this whole area, if I'm not mistaken. Now I'm just going to go into these logs because, as mentioned... Someone, as one of the guards mentioned, there are valuable items in these logs. I don't know if this one can't be climbed in. I just remember there's only 2. No, right, is it this one? I'm sure there's another one. I swear on my life there's another log you can climb into. Ah, stun grenade. I do believe around here somewhere, actually. Maybe it's not here. I'm sure there's an extra item. The thing I'm looking for is a frog. There are these collectible frog dolls throughout the entire game, which if you shoot all of them throughout the entire game, you can play a New Game Plus mode where you have this infinite ammo, like invisibility cloak, basically. A completely, what's the word, anachronistic invisibility cloak. You can just have that for the whole game. There's also an infinite ammo bandana you can unlock. So you can have infinite ammo and invisibility for New Game Plus if you want. It's only entertaining for about half an hour, but just the fact that it's so powerful and it takes so much effort to unlock. I think in this area there's a sniper rifle. So if we go into the backpack, we've unlocked a sniper rifle, which is incredibly powerful. It will make a lot of noise, but you can kill guys from miles away. And I forgot to equip it. I've also unlocked the thermal goggles, which I'm going to have to do a story about. Look at these fucking things. You can see my fucking footprints in the floor of these things. There's a snake there I hadn't even noticed was there. Hello, are you a friendly snake? I guess so. There you go, I've eaten you now. You're mine. I've killed you with my kicking you in the face, and I'm going to eat you later. The thermal goggles are extremely useful. They are... I would recommend if you're a new player, use the thermal goggles for your first attempt. They do slowly drain the battery, but other than that, there's no real disadvantage to using them, and the battery recharges if you just go about a minute without using it, so you can very easily tap the button, look around, and then unequip it to let the battery recharge. The thermal goggles are incredibly helpful, and I will not be using them throughout this playthrough because, other than just to demonstrate like just now, because I am super pro at this game and I find it much more fun to have to use my eyes and ears. I think, other than for your first playthrough, I strongly recommend not using the thermal goggles once you've beaten the game once, because it's much more fun. It is like a New Game Plus. It's like discovering the game for a second time without training wheels to go back and not use the thermal goggles. I'd say the same thing about the tranquilizer gun, because if you shoot a guard with a regular bullet, they make a noise when they die, and other guards can potentially hear that. If you hit them with a tranquilizer gun, there's no noise when they go down, and if someone finds them, they won't set off an alert, unlike if they find a dead guard, they will set off an alert. So, the tranquilizer gun is pretty much factually better, with no real downside, to using lethal bullets. That's, you know, apart from certain circumstances. Now, we're about to enter another area, but I do desperately need to piss, so I'll just go do that, and see you in a minute.
Everybody's worried about the atomic bomb, but nobody's worried about the day my Lord will come, when he'll hit great God Almighty like an atom bomb. When he comes, when he comes. In 1945, the atom bomb became alive. In 1949, the USA got very wise. They found a country across the line had an atom bomb of the very same kind.